He didn't call security. He
Officer,
just
release
looked
the
at the
woman.
police
She
officer
is coming
beside
with
me and said quietly, "Let her go. She already saved my son once." I thought he was lying to protect me, but then he whispered something only I could hear. "And this time, I won't let them erase you again." 3 months earlier, I was just a night shift waitress nobody noticed. The kind of girl rich men look through, not at. Until the most dangerous man in the city walked into my diner with a bleeding child in his arms. I helped the boy, and that single decision destroyed my normal life. Because after that night, someone powerful wanted me gone. Welcome to Her Silent Room. You're listening to another story, so let's get into it. In 1998, I worked the graveyard shift at a roadside diner that smelled like burnt coffee and dish soap. The sign outside flickered every 7 seconds. I counted it sometimes when I couldn't sleep at home. 7 seconds on, 7 seconds off. Most nights, the same people came. Truck drivers who didn't want conversation. 2 nurses who split one slice of pie for 3 hours. A man who always ordered soup but never ate it. Nobody asked my name, and I never offered it. I liked it that way. Because when people don't know you, they also don't leave you. My section was the corner booths near the window, the unwanted seats, cold in winter, too bright in summer. Close to the parking lot where drunks argued and engines coughed themselves to death. New waitresses complained about that section. I never did. Unwanted places are peaceful. No tips, but no trouble either. At least, that's what I believed back then. My manager, Carla, said I moved quietly. "Like you're afraid the floor will remember you," she joked once. I laughed, but she wasn't wrong. I had a habit of memorizing exits. Back door behind the kitchen, bathroom window that barely opened, breaker panel near the soda machine. People who grow up moving around learn those things. You don't think about safety. You think about leaving fast. At 2:14 a.m., the diner always became still. Not empty, still. Even the refrigerator hum felt softer. That hour belonged to people avoiding something. Debt, loneliness, or home. I wiped the same clean counter for the 3rd time when I noticed the parking lot. No cars. Not unusual, but the silence felt heavier. The flickering sign outside buzzed louder than normal. 7 seconds on, 7 seconds off. Then the bell above the door rang. I didn't look up right away. You learn customers better from their shoes first. Mud means long stay. Polished means complaints. Work boots mean coffee refill every 5 minutes. But these shoes stopped me. Black leather. Clean. Not expensive clean. Controlled clean. The kind people keep spotless on purpose. I raised my eyes slowly and saw the man who would end my ordinary life standing under the buzzing light. He wasn't dressed flashy. No jewelry, no loud confidence. But every chair near the entrance suddenly looked smaller. Not because he was big, because he expected space. Some people walk into rooms. Others arrive like the room already belonged to them. He was the second kind. He didn't sit. He scanned the diner once, not curious, assessing, like he was checking whether danger had arrived before him. Then his gaze landed on me. Not friendly, not rude, just certain. He walked to my section without asking. People never chose my section, until him. "Coffee?" I asked automatically. My voice sounded normal. I was proud of that. He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled the chair back, but didn't sit yet. His right hand stayed inside his coat, not holding something, protecting something. I felt it before I saw it. A small sound, not a cry, a breath that hurt. My chest tightened. He finally sat, carefully, and the coat shifted. That's when I saw the blood. Not much, but too dark to ignore, and beneath the coat, a child. The boy couldn't have been older than 6. His face was pale the way skin gets when pain is trying to stay quiet. He was awake, but watching the man, not me, trusting him completely. That scared me more than the blood, because children only look at someone like that when they believe nothing bad can happen near them. "Hospital is 12 minutes away," I said softly. The man shook his head once. "No hospital." His voice was calm, not desperate, a decision already made. "Please," I tried again. "He needs—" "I need hot water, clean towels." He placed money on the table before I could argue, more than my weekly pay. My hands didn't move. I wasn't thinking about rules. I was thinking about the boy's breathing, short, controlled, trying not to cry. I recognized that. Kids who cry get ignored. Kids who stay quiet survive. I walked to the kitchen, not because of the money, because I knew that kind of silence. When I came back, the man had removed the coat. The injury was a deep cut across the boy's side. Not accidental, not a fall. Something sharp. My stomach dropped. "Hold this," I said, giving the man the towel. He obeyed immediately. No hesitation, no pride, just focus on the child. Authority disappeared the moment the boy winced. And that was the first time I saw fear in his eyes. Not for himself, for the small person in his arms. The diner clock ticked loudly, 2:21 a.m. I cleaned the wound carefully. The boy never screamed. He just held the man's sleeve tightly. "What's your name?" I whispered to him. The man answered instead. "Daniel." The child didn't correct him, which meant it was true. After a moment, the boy looked at me. "Will it hurt tomorrow?" he asked. I smiled gently. "Yes," I said honestly, "but less than today." He nodded, accepting it, braver than most adults I knew. When I finished wrapping the bandage, I expected the man to leave immediately. Instead, he stayed seated, watching me, not suspicious, not grateful, studying, like he was trying to remember something he had almost forgotten. "You've done this before," he said. It wasn't a question. I shook my head. "No." But he didn't believe me, and strangely, I didn't believe myself either. Outside, a car slowly passed the diner, then another. The man noticed. His posture changed instantly. Protective, alert, danger had found him, and somehow, me. I didn't know it yet, but that moment, that quiet 2:23 a.m. silence, was the last peaceful minute of my life. The headlights didn't park. They rolled past the diner once, then again, slow enough to notice, too slow to be normal traffic at 2:23 a.m. I pretended to wipe the counter. The man didn't pretend. His eyes followed the reflection in the glass, not the street itself. People who expect trouble never look directly at it. "Friends?" I asked quietly. "No," he said. Just one word. "Certain." The boy, Daniel, shifted in the booth, pain finally catching up to bravery. His fingers tightened in the man's sleeve. The man immediately lowered his voice. "You're fine." He didn't say it like comfort. He said it like a promise he would fight reality to keep. I had never heard someone speak to a child like that. Not soft, not sweet, but absolute. The bell over the door rang again. Both of us turned instantly. Carla stepped out from the kitchen holding a box of frozen fries. She stopped when she saw the blood-stained towels. "Oh, hell no. We're not turning this place into an emergency room," she snapped. I stepped toward her before she could see the boy clearly. "He just cut himself on glass outside," I said. I didn't plan the lie. It arrived on its own. The man watched me carefully, measuring why I would help a stranger. Carla sighed. "Clean it and get them out before morning crowd." Morning crowd was 4 truckers and a newspaper guy, but rules were rules. 5 minutes, I promised. The passing car returned. This time it slowed enough that the engine sound lingered outside. The man stood, not suddenly, deliberately, like panic wastes energy he couldn't afford. He placed money on the table again, more than before. "Back exit," he said quietly, not asking, trusting. I pointed toward the kitchen hallway. My heart was beating too fast for a situation I didn't understand. But I did understand one thing. Whoever was outside, He didn't want them seeing the boy. We moved through the kitchen, fryers humming, dishwasher rattling, Carla complaining about inventory behind us. Normal sounds. But every step felt louder than it should. Daniel held onto his shoulder as the man carried him. The child buried his face into the man's neck, not scared of pain anymore, scared of something else. At the back door, the man paused, not to listen, to think. Then he turned to me. For the first time, his voice softened. "You helped him without asking who I am." I shrugged. He was bleeding. A long silence followed. Like that answer mattered more than I realized. Then he said quietly, "That may have been dangerous." Before I could respond, headlights swept across the alley wall. The car. They had circled behind the diner. My stomach dropped. "How many exits do you know?" he asked. "2. Now there are 3, he said. He opened a side storage gate I didn't even know unlocked. Beyond it, a narrow service path between buildings, hidden from the street. He started walking, carrying Daniel securely, then stopped, turned back toward me. "Go inside." But Daniel looked over his shoulder at me, not scared, concerned. "Will she be okay?" the boy asked him. The man hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. Danger didn't end when he left. It stayed where witnesses stayed, with me. I crossed my arms, trying to stay steady. "I already lied for you," I said. "Too late to be safe." Something changed in his expression. Respect. Small, but real. He reached into his coat and handed me a folded card. No name, just a phone number. "If anyone asks questions," he said, "call before answering." I took it without thinking. Then he disappeared down the dark path with the child. No goodbye, no explanation, just gone. I stood there for a long moment, listening to the empty alley, trying to convince myself this was over. Then the car engine stopped nearby. Close, very close. A door slammed. Footsteps approached the diner's back entrance. My hands went cold, because now they were looking for whoever helped him, and I was the only one left. The footsteps stopped right outside the back door, not rushed, not nervous, patient. The kind of patience people have when they already know the answer, they just want confirmation. I didn't breathe. The metal handle moved slightly. Locked. A quiet pause followed, then a knock, not loud, not aggressive, polite. That scared me more than anything. "Kitchen's closed," I called through the door. My voice sounded normal. Years of pretending had trained it well. Silence answered first. Then a man spoke. "Car trouble," he said calmly. "Looking for someone who came through here." My chest tightened. He wasn't asking if someone passed. He already knew. He was checking if I would lie. I wiped my hands on my apron, even though they weren't wet. "Only delivery guy tonight," I replied. "Left an hour ago." Another pause, then the sound of slow footsteps moving away. I waited. 5 seconds, 10, 15. Still silence. I exhaled, and that's when the door handle jerked hard. Once, twice, testing. I stepped back instinctively. My heart slammed against my ribs. The man outside laughed quietly, not angry, satisfied, like he learned what he needed. Then the footsteps finally left. I stayed frozen for almost a minute. Only when the kitchen refrigerator hummed again did my body move. I closed the inner hallway door and leaned against it. My hands shook, not from fear, from realization. The man with the child hadn't been hiding from police. He was hiding from people who didn't care about laws. And now they knew I existed. I walked back to the diner floor. Carla didn't notice anything. She argued with a supplier on the phone. Coffee machine hissed, clock ticked. Life kept moving like nothing had changed. But everything had. Because I still held the folded card in my pocket. And suddenly it felt heavy. For the next hour, every car that passed slowed. Maybe normal, maybe not. You start seeing patterns once danger introduces itself. At 3:07 a.m., I almost convinced myself I imagined it all. At 3:12 a.m., the phone rang. Not the customer phone, the pay phone near the restroom. Nobody used it anymore, except people who didn't want to be traced. I stared at it. It rang again. Carla yelled from the kitchen. "You gonna get that?" My feet moved before my thoughts did. I picked up slowly. "Diner," I said. Silence. Then his voice. "You're still there." Not a question. Relief hidden behind control. I didn't realize I'd been holding tension in my chest until it loosened. "They came back," I whispered. A brief pause. "How many?" he asked. "2, maybe 3. Another silence. Not confusion, calculation. "I told you it was dangerous," he said. "You didn't tell me enough," I replied quietly. For the first time, his voice softened again. "You did more than enough." I swallowed. "Is the boy okay?" A small exhale came through the line. "He asked about you." I didn't expect that. Something warm and uncomfortable moved in my chest. "You should leave work early today," he continued. "I can't just quit." "Not quit," he said. "Be somewhere else tonight." "You're assuming I trust you," I answered. A longer pause this time. "Fair." Finally, he spoke. "You already trusted me once." I looked at the dark window. My reflection looked like someone older than me. "Why are they looking for me?" I asked. His answer came slower than before. "Because people like control," he said, "and kindness interferes with plans." That wasn't the full truth. I knew it. He knew I knew it, but neither of us pushed further. Before hanging up, he said something unexpected. "If anything unusual happens, call. Any hour." The line clicked dead. No goodbye again. Just responsibility placed quietly in my hands. I returned to work, poured coffee, cleaned tables, smiled at customers. But every sound was louder now, every shadow longer. At sunrise, my shift finally ended. I stepped outside. Cold air hit my face, and I saw the same car from earlier parked across the street, engine off. Someone inside, watching. I didn't move, didn't pretend not to notice. For a long moment, neither did they. Then the engine started, and the car drove away, slowly. Not chasing, not hiding, letting me understand. This wasn't over. It had only begun. Morning traffic usually made me feel safe. People going to work, school buses, noise that erased the night. But that morning, sound didn't help because I kept checking reflections, store windows, parked cars, glass doors. The same dark sedan appeared twice in 3 blocks. Not speeding, not hiding, just staying close enough to exist. I changed direction. Instead of the bus stop, I walked toward the laundromat. If they passed me, coincidence. If they waited, not coincidence. I pretended to search my bag while watching the street mirror inside the shop. The car slowed, then continued forward. My shoulders loosened slightly. Maybe I was imagining. It stopped at the corner, engine still running, waiting. My stomach dropped. I didn't go home immediately. I bought time, sat inside for 20 minutes beside machines I didn't use. People came and left. No one noticed me. But when I finally stepped outside, the sedan rolled forward again. Same distance, same patience. Now I knew. They weren't trying to grab me. They were learning me. Routine, address, alone hours. That was worse. I walked the remaining 4 blocks anyway. Running would confirm fear. Fear gives information. So I kept my pace steady even while my pulse shook in my ears. When I reached my apartment building, I didn't turn around. I used the lobby glass instead. The car stopped across the street, driver still unseen, watching, confirming. I entered without looking back, but my hands trembled unlocking the mailbox. Empty, for now. Inside my apartment, everything looked smaller. Single couch, second-hand table, one window facing the street. I didn't turn the lights on. I stood behind the curtain and waited. 5 minutes, 10. The car never left. That was the moment the truth settled. They didn't need to hurt me yet. They just needed me to know they could. I reached into my pocket. The folded card felt warmer than before. I stared at the number. If I called, I stepped deeper into his world. If I didn't, they controlled mine. I dialed. He answered before the second ring. "You went home." Not guessing, he had expected it. "You said call if something unusual happened," I replied. Silence. Then, "Describe the car." I did. No interruption, no wasted questions. When I finished, his voice changed, colder. "They're not supposed to approach you directly." "Approach?" I whispered. "They've been outside my building for half an hour." Another quiet pause, anger restrained carefully. "Stay inside," he said. I wasn't planning to go for coffee with them. Footsteps echoed faintly on his side of the line. Movement. Orders given quietly to someone else. He covered the receiver briefly. I heard a door slam, then back to me. "Do not open the door for anyone except me." I froze. "You're coming here?" "Yes." The line ended. I checked the locks twice, then dragged the kitchen chair under the doorknob, not because it would stop anyone serious, because it helped my mind breathe. Minutes passed slower than hours. The sedan never moved. Then, after what felt like forever, it did. It drove away. Not hurried, not scared, just finished, like its job was done. I didn't feel relief. I felt scheduled. 20 minutes later, a different car arrived. Dark, clean, quiet engine. It parked directly in front of the building. The driver stepped out. Same controlled posture, same presence that changed room sizes. He looked up at my window immediately. He knew exactly where I lived. I opened the door before he knocked. For the first time, we stood in my world instead of his. Narrow hallway, peeling paint, dim light. He observed everything in one glance, not judging, recording. "You shouldn't stay here tonight," he said. No greeting, no apology, just conclusion. I crossed my arms. "Those men, yours or enemies?" "Both," he answered. I didn't like how fast that came. "Explain." He met my eyes directly. "Someone believes you saw more than you did." "I saw a wounded kid," I said. "Yes," he replied quietly, "and that's exactly the problem." I hesitated. Letting a dangerous man into my apartment was irrational, but leaving the hallway was worse. I stepped aside. He entered slowly, respecting space. Daniel's blood had dried faintly on his sleeve. He noticed me looking. "He's safe," he said. I nodded once. Relief arrived before I allowed it. Then he surprised me. "I owe you honesty," he said. Not full honesty, but something closer than before. "The boy is important," he continued, "and important children create desperate enemies." "And me?" I asked. "You're now connected to the night they failed." My chest tightened. "So they erase witnesses." He didn't deny it. Instead, "I prevent it." The confidence in his voice wasn't arrogance, it was experience. He placed a small object on my table, a pager. "If anything changes, press once," he said. "I'll know." I stared at it. "You prepared this fast." "I prepare for problems before they exist." I almost laughed nervously. "I was a problem?" His eyes held mine. "No," he said quietly. "You were an unexpected variable." Somehow that felt more personal. Outside, a car passed loudly. I flinched. He noticed, then made a decision. "Pack a bag," he said. "You're not staying here tonight." I didn't move, because leaving meant trust, and trust meant crossing a line I couldn't uncross. He didn't pressure me. He simply added, "They won't wait long next time." My silence broke. I walked to the bedroom, because deep down, I already knew he was right. I didn't own much, 2 changes of clothes, a pair of shoes I only wore to job interviews that never called back, and a small box under my bed I never opened. Packing took less than 3 minutes. Trust took longer. I stood in the doorway holding the bag, watching him study the apartment like he was memorizing the life I was leaving behind. "You do this often?" I asked. "Move people?" he replied. I nodded. "Yes." Not proud, not ashamed, just fact. We left through the back stairs. He didn't use the front entrance. I noticed. He noticed me noticing. "You learn patterns fast," he said. "You learn survival fast," I corrected. For a moment, we almost smiled. His car didn't look expensive, but the doors closed heavier than normal cars. Safe heavy, the kind that blocks sound. I hesitated before entering. He waited without rushing me. Finally, I sat inside. The city moved around us quietly, streetlights sliding across the windshield. I expected guards, convoys, something dramatic. Instead, just us. That felt stranger. "Where are we going?" I asked. "A place nobody guesses first," he answered. Not helpful, but oddly reassuring. He drove without music, without conversation. Comfortable silence. Not empty, aware. After 10 minutes, he spoke. "You asked if I do this often." "Yes." "I don't," he said. I turned slightly toward him. "But tonight, I prefer certainty." We stopped outside a large building I had passed my whole life but never entered. A hotel, old money style, not flashy, permanent. He stepped out first and opened my door. Not politeness, visibility. Everyone inside would see me arrive with him. Protection through recognition. I understood immediately. Inside, the staff reacted subtly. No greeting by name, but posture changed. Respect without surprise. He checked in using only a nod. No paperwork in front of me. No questions asked. He handed me the room key. "You'll stay here." "And you?" "Nearby." I didn't like that answer. "You're the reason I'm here," I said. "You don't get to disappear." A brief pause, then, "I won't." The room overlooked the river, too nice for someone like me. I stood by the window, unsure what to do with comfort. He remained near the door, keeping distance intentionally. "Daniel will ask about you," he said. My chest tightened slightly. "Is he scared?" "No," he replied. "He trusts easily." A beat passed. "He shouldn't," I murmured. His eyes softened in a way that didn't match the rest of him. "He trusts correctly," he said quietly. I turned toward him. Why me? The real question since the diner, not about the boy, about me. He studied my face carefully before answering. "You didn't ask who he was," he said. "You asked if he would hurt tomorrow." I frowned slightly. "That matters?" "Yes." Silence stretched. Then he added, "Most people help power. You helped pain." I didn't know how to respond to that. No one had ever described me before. He moved toward the door but stopped, almost leaving, then turning back. "Someone inside my organization gave information tonight," he said. So that was it. Betrayal, not random enemies. "They think you saw a face," he continued. "Whether you did or not doesn't matter." "And you believe I didn't?" I asked. "I believe," he said slowly, "you would have told me." The certainty in his voice surprised me more than the danger outside ever had. Trust, offered quietly, not demanded. Before exiting, he placed something on the desk. Not money, a small paper bag. Inside, children's pain medicine and clean bandages. "For Daniel," he explained. "He insisted you would remind me." I felt warmth rise unexpectedly in my throat. That boy remembered me, too. At the door, he paused. "For tonight, you're safe," he said. I looked at the lock, then at him. Why do I feel like this isn't about safety anymore? For the first time, uncertainty touched his expression. "Because," he said quietly, "I keep returning." and neither of us pretended we didn't understand what that meant. I didn't sleep. Comfortable beds make memories louder. Every small sound inside the hotel room felt unfamiliar. The hum of air conditioning, distant elevator cables, water moving behind walls. Places meant for rest don't work on people trained to stay alert. So I sat by the window, watching the river turn silver with early morning light. At 6:12 a.m., someone knocked. 2 soft taps, not staff. I knew immediately. I opened the door carefully. He stood there exactly as before, controlled posture, unreadable expression. Except now he carried a small paper cup tray, coffee, and a smaller cup with a lid. "For you," he said. I stepped aside to let him in. "You didn't sleep," he added, noticing the untouched bed. "Neither did you," I replied. He didn't deny it. He placed the cups on the table, then, after a short hesitation, handed me the smaller one. "Chocolate milk," he explained. I frowned slightly. "I'm not a child." "I know," he said calmly. "But you forgot to eat." I realized he was right, and strangely, I accepted the drink without argument. We sat across from each other in silence. Morning light made him look less dangerous, or maybe just more human. "Daniel?" I asked. "Resting," he said. He asked if the diner was real. That made me smile faintly. "It was," I said. A quiet moment passed. Then his phone vibrated. He glanced at it, and for the first time, tension appeared instantly in his jaw. Not fear, recognition. "I need to take this," he said. He stepped into the hallway but didn't fully close the door. Unintentional. Or trust. His voice stayed low, but certain words carried. "No, not her. Too early. You're guessing." Then silence. Then colder. "If anyone approaches her again, we're done negotiating." The line ended. He stayed still for a moment before re-entering. Expression restored, but something had shifted. "I have to leave for a few hours," he said. I nodded. Then he paused, thinking. Finally, "Lock the door after me. Don't answer anyone." "You've said that already," I replied gently. "This time I mean even if they use my name." That was new. After he left, the room felt larger, too quiet again. I tried watching television, didn't hear any of it. My attention kept drifting to the desk where he had left his coat earlier while carrying the drinks. Still there, forgotten. I stared at it for a long time. I shouldn't touch it. But people like me survive by noticing things others miss. And right now, details might keep me alive. Inside the inner pocket was a wallet. I didn't open it at first. Then I did. Not searching for money, searching for understanding. ID card, name. I read it once, then again. The most powerful surname in the city. I finally understood why staff never asked questions, why cars watched, why the child mattered. My hands felt cold. I placed it back carefully. But something else slipped loose from the lining. A photograph. Old, edges worn. I picked it up slowly. A woman stood beside a man, and between them, a little girl, about 6 years old, holding a stuffed rabbit, smiling at the camera like she trusted the world. My breath stopped, because I knew that rabbit. Not the toy itself, the stitched ear, the crooked button eye. I had seen it before, every day of my childhood. The photo trembled in my hands. The girl's face, younger, rounder, but unmistakable. Me. I dropped into the chair. Impossible. The name on the ID, the child I saved, the man who kept returning. My heart pounded painfully. He didn't recognize me. But he carried this photo everywhere, which meant he never stopped searching. The lock clicked. I froze. He stood in the doorway, back earlier than expected. His eyes moved from my face to the photograph in my hands. For the first time since I met him, control disappeared completely. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The hallway noise faded. The city disappeared. There was only the photograph between us. His voice came out lower than I had ever heard it. "Where did you get that?" I held it carefully so it wouldn't shake. "It fell from your coat." He didn't move closer, didn't take it back, just watched my face like he was trying to read years at once. "You shouldn't have opened my things," he said. But there was no anger in it, only fear. I swallowed. "I didn't know what world I stepped into," I replied softly. "I needed to understand who was protecting me." A long silence followed. Then he asked the question that changed everything. "Why are you crying?" I hadn't noticed until then. My vision blurred slightly, because the little girl in the photo still remembered him, even if he didn't remember her. Before I could speak, loud knocks hit the door. Not polite, not patient, official. We both turned instantly. He crossed the room in 2 steps and looked through the peephole. His expression hardened. "Police," he said quietly. My stomach dropped. "I didn't do anything." "I know," he answered. That certainty again. But this time, it carried tension. The knocking intensified. "Open the door!" He hesitated only a second, then stepped back and opened it. 2 officers entered, followed by a man in a suit I had never seen. But he knew him. I could tell from the cold recognition in his eyes. "Good morning," the suited man said calmly. "We have a report regarding a missing minor." The room felt smaller. The officer turned to me. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us." I blinked in confusion. "Why?" The suited man spoke instead. "A witness saw you leave a restaurant with a child matching the description." My pulse roared in my ears. "That's not... I helped him. He was hurt." The officer raised a hand gently but firmly. "You can explain at the station." I looked at him, waiting, expecting him to correct them immediately. But he didn't. Not yet, because something else was happening. He was studying the suited man, not surprised, confirming betrayal. The man smiled faintly. Power satisfaction. "This wasn't investigation. It was strategy." "Sir," the officer said to him, "do you know this woman?" Silence filled the room. The answer mattered more than my innocence. His gaze shifted from the suited man to me. For a brief second, something painful crossed his face. Conflict. Then he spoke. "Yes." Relief hit my chest, but his next words erased it. "She was at the diner." Nothing more. Not protector, not witness, just placement. My throat tightened. They stepped closer. Cold metal touched my wrist. Handcuffs. I stared at him, stunned. "You said you would prevent this." But he didn't stop them, didn't fight, didn't explain. And that hurt more than the cuffs, because trust had just broken quietly. As they led me toward the door, the suited man leaned slightly toward him. "You're too careful," he murmured. "Sometimes removing problems early is cleaner." So that was it. I wasn't being arrested. I was being removed, legally, permanently. Right before I crossed the doorway, I looked back. He still hadn't moved, still hadn't defended me. So I did the only thing I could. I spoke softly, not to the police, to him. "You kept searching," I said. His eyes sharpened instantly. Recognition flickered, not understanding yet, but impact. The photograph was still in my hand. I let it fall onto the table beside him and walked out. In the elevator, my chest felt hollow. Not fear, betrayal. Because the one man powerful enough to stop it had chosen silence. And I didn't know yet that silence was the only thing keeping me alive. Police stations smell the same everywhere. Paper, old coffee, and people waiting for someone else to decide their future. They sat me in a small interview room with a metal table bolted to the floor. No window, just a camera in the corner pretending not to exist. The officer who cuffed me earlier removed them gently. "You're not under arrest yet," he said. Yet. The word echoed. Minutes passed. Then the suited man entered. No officers this time. That told me everything. This wasn't about law. It was about narrative. He sat across from me and folded his hands. You inserted yourself into something complicated, he said calmly. I cleaned a child's wound, I replied. He smiled slightly. Yes, and now you'll confirm you found him alone. My stomach tightened. You want me to lie? I want the truth shaped correctly, he corrected. I shook my head. He was with his father. The smile faded. That answer harms many people, he said softly. So does kidnapping, I answered. Silence. Then he leaned closer. You won't see tomorrow's sunrise outside a cell if you insist on protecting him. The door opened. An officer stepped in holding paperwork. Sir, hospital confirmed treatment at 2:40 a.m., private clinic. Child admitted under temporary name. The suited man frowned slightly. Name? He asked. The officer read from the page, and my world tilted. Because the name wasn't the boy's. And it wasn't random. It was mine. I grabbed the paper instinctively. There it was, my first name, my childhood surname, registered as emergency guardian. My hands trembled. He did this, I whispered. The suited man's expression changed, calculation breaking into concern, because this wasn't expected. He had protected me, not abandoned me. By staying silent in the hotel, he let them take me publicly. But he had already placed evidence somewhere they couldn't erase. If I was guardian at the hospital, I wasn't a kidnapper. I was documented family, and whoever arranged that planned ahead. The officer looked confused. So you know the child? I hesitated. For the first time, truth felt heavier than safety. I think, I said slowly, I knew his father long before last night. The suited man stood abruptly. This had moved beyond his control. He left the room without another word, power shifting. I sat alone again, but no longer powerless, because now I understood his silence. He didn't defend me there. He defended me here, where records mattered more than words. And somehow, years before we met again, he had prepared for a moment he didn't even recognize. The officer returned. You're free to wait in the lobby, he said gently. Not cleared, not accused, suspended, just like the truth. As I stepped into the hallway, my chest tightened, because if the hospital used my childhood name, then the photograph wasn't coincidence, and the man who saved me had once been part of my life. I didn't know whether to hope or fear the moment he finally remembered. They didn't send me home. They asked me to wait. That was how I knew something larger had started moving. People with power never rush the end. They gather witnesses first. By afternoon, a black car arrived. Not his. Government plates. The officer who escorted me spoke carefully. You're requested at a private meeting. Requested. Another word that meant no choice. The building wasn't a courthouse. Too elegant, too quiet. Men in suits spoke in low voices in the hallways. No uniforms, no public records. This was where reputations were decided before news ever heard them. Inside the conference room, I finally understood. A long table, city officials, business leaders, and at the far end, him. Standing, not sitting, waiting. The suited man from earlier stood beside the others, but he didn't look confident anymore, because whatever story he planned had changed direction. When I entered, every eye turned, some curious, some dismissive, one relieved. Daniel sat in a chair beside the wall, bandaged but awake. The moment he saw me, he tried to stand. His father placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Stay, he said softly. The meeting began immediately. Voices layered over each other. Accusations of negligence, security failure, kidnapping claim. The suited man spoke smoothly. This woman removed the child from supervision. No. One word. His voice. The room went silent instantly. Authority doesn't need volume. It needs certainty. He stepped forward slightly. Every person at that table listened before he finished moving. She treated my son after an attack, he said calmly. Not emotional, not dramatic, irrefutable. The suited man attempted a smile. "With respect, we only have your word." A folder landed on the table. Hospital records, security timestamps, witness statements, prepared long before today. Control returned to its rightful owner. But he didn't stop there. He looked directly at me. For the first time since the photograph. Something different in his eyes now. Not suspicion, not gratitude. Recognition struggling toward the surface. Then he spoke again. "And she did not take him," he continued quietly. "I brought my son to her because I trusted her." A murmur spread through the room. Powerful men admitting trust is rare, dangerous, final. The suited man's composure cracked. "You're protecting a stranger over your own security?" Another interruption, colder. "She is not a stranger." Silence fell heavier than before. My pulse thundered. He reached into his coat slowly, placed the photograph on the table. The same worn edges, the same child holding a stitched rabbit. He turned it toward the room, then toward me. "I didn't remember her," he said quietly, "but I never stopped searching." My throat tightened painfully. The room blurred. "Years ago," he continued, voice steady but softer than ever before, "a child disappeared from my family after an internal betrayal." The suited man froze, because now the story wasn't legal. It was personal. "And the man responsible," he finished, "is sitting at this table." Every gaze shifted, not to me, to the suited man. The room erupted in voices, questions, denials, fear disguised as outrage. But I only heard his next words, spoken directly to me. "I should have recognized you sooner." Not apology, regret, real, the kind that lives a long time. For the first time since the diner, the power balance reversed. Not boss and waitress, not protector and witness. Family, standing across years of silence. And the man who tried to erase me was finally visible to everyone. Nobody argued anymore. Not really. Power changes shape when truth enters the room. The suited man tried, of course he tried. Denial, confusion, blame redirected to paperwork mistakes. But the problem with lies is simple. They need memory. Truth doesn't. He didn't raise his voice, didn't threaten. He only spoke facts, dates, transfers of guardianship, money routed quietly through companies nobody questioned. Each sentence removed another place the man could hide, and by the time silence returned, everyone understood. This wasn't about a diner or a misunderstanding. It was about a child removed from a family to weaken a father. And that child had been me. The suited man finally stopped talking because there was nothing left to shape, only exposure. Security entered, not police, internal. People loyal to structure, not friendship. They asked him to stand. He did, but his eyes never left mine. I didn't feel victory, only weight. Years had been stolen, and no room could return them. The door closed behind him. The meeting dissolved slowly into whispers, but I only noticed one thing. He didn't move closer yet. Not until the room emptied, not until authority no longer needed witnesses. Then he stepped toward me, carefully, like approaching something fragile. "I searched for 12 years, he said quietly. No introduction, no titles, just a man speaking. I found traces, schools, addresses, always too late." My chest tightened. "I stopped remembering your voice," he continued, "but not the way you held my sleeve." A memory flickered in my mind, a much younger version of him kneeling to my height, promising safety I didn't understand back then. "Why didn't you say it in the hotel?" I asked softly. His jaw tightened. "Because he was listening," he replied. "If I claimed you there, you would disappear before morning." I finally understood. His silence wasn't doubt, it was timing. He had waited for a room where truth couldn't be erased. Daniel approached carefully. No fear, just curiosity. Are you staying now? He asked me. The question landed deeper than any confession. I looked at his father, then back to the boy. I don't know yet, I answered honestly. Children accept honesty easier than adults. He nodded and held my hand anyway, like decisions could wait. We stood near the window overlooking the city. Same place, different meaning. You built a life without us, he said. I survived, I corrected gently. A quiet understanding passed between us. Not reunion, not forgiveness. Beginning. I can't return your years, he added. No, I said softly. But you can stop them from being stolen again. He nodded once. Agreement, not promise. Something stronger. Responsibility. Outside, evening lights turned on across the streets. People moved, unaware of the war that had just ended quietly above them. For them, it was another day. For me, it was the first one not shaped by running. He didn't ask me to stay, didn't offer money, didn't offer comfort I hadn't chosen. Only this. You decide what we are now. And for the first time in my life, the future waited for my answer. I saved his son that night, but he saved something else. My name, my past, my place in the world. We didn't become a perfect family. We became something harder, honest. And sometimes, that matters more.